We're here with Eleni Cetus from the Oasis Natural Health Foundation. Eleni, can you tell us what is the foundation and why did you create it?
Oasis Natural Health Foundation is a non-profit organisation that I set up last year to address the needs of chronic illnesses and incapacitating disabilities of children around the world that limit and oppress their potential.
So Eleni, how does the foundation actually address these concerns?
I developed a healing modality called ES Healing, which stands for Energy Systems Healing. It brings together the components of bone therapy, massage, intuitive healing and musculoskeletal therapy. I personally train therapists here in Australia who then go over to these countries where the children are. They treat the children with this healing modality and they also train other local therapists to do this work. We've had amazing results already around the world with the work that I've been doing.
You've just returned from a foundation trip, haven't you? Would you like to just tell us a little bit more about it?
Oh, I'd love to. I recently came back from a 3-week trip to Bali, Thailand and Laos. With doing the ES healing, met with a number of children and treated those children. I met up with a number of organisations, the directors of those organisations, their schools and orphanages who all work with children.
Can you give us a couple of examples of some of the healing work that you've actually done?
One of the examples is of a young boy named G'day. I met him last year. He's a 13-year-old boy from Bali. He goes to a school called Jabatan Senang, which is a disabled school, a school for disabled children. He had only been at the school for 4 months when I met him. Prior to that, he'd lived at home behind closed doors. He was crippled up in his arms and legs, and he'd been crawling around the concrete and dirt floors away from family and the outside world. In those countries, it is very normal for children to be put away. Having a disability, it means that it's a stigma, a karma, a curse, bad karma, and the children or adults who have these conditions are ostracised and ignored by their families and the community. Couple that with the fact that many of these families are very poor and they don't have the funds available to get these disabilities or the illnesses that the children may have treated. So they often get ignored. Many of them do die, unfortunately.
So you were telling us more about G'day?
On my first trip to Bali in November 2014, I only did the one treatment on G'day. He seemed to unfurl like a curled up flower. His eyes lit up as though he'd never seen before. He was quiet and peaceful afterwards. And I wondered whether or not that one treatment would make a difference to him or whether he'd go back to his crippled state. When I went back in March 2015, earlier this year, I was able to have 2 weeks of treatments with G'day. I worked on other children at that time as well, though I did mostly focus on G'day. His transformation was quite miraculous. From that crippled condition, he was now extending his arms fully. He could stand up on his legs. And momentarily, though he could do it. He still needs a lot of physio work on his legs because his knees and his ankles are still very tight. So it will take time for all of that to loosen up. He can speak 3 languages, whereas when I first met him, he could barely speak his own name. He directs the other children in class, which is awesome to watch. This young boy is a natural leader, and now he's been given that opportunity to be his fullest potential. When I went back in September, just recently, he was doing daily physio work and exercises with the teachers. When I'd been there last time in March, I taught the teachers and carers how to actually do ES healing, to do specific moves on the body and do techniques that would actually help to loosen up the tight, crippled condition of these children and heal their bodies. So one of the teachers was actually doing this work with him and with the other children as well, and it was making massive changes to him and all the other children.
So what about in Thailand and Laos? Do you have any memorable experiences about the time you had there?
Yes, I did actually. When I was in Thailand, my friend who I stayed with, EU, she took me to a blind school in Bangkok, and there I met the director Ha. Now, Ha had been there for 2 years, and she had done a lot of work with the teachers to integrate them into changing the way that they work with the children and working with the children's disabilities as well, and teaching the teachers new ways of doing things. When I told her that we were there to help her, she just burst into tears. She was so grateful that we were there to help the children and to also teach the teachers. She said, we have a doctor who had been here once before, who had done an assessment on the teachers and the children, and she was coming that day to give her report about her findings and how they could implement more change with the children and with the teachers. Would you like to come along? It's like, absolutely yes. So we'd only been there an hour, and here we were being invited into this monumental meeting of change within the school. Even though I couldn't speak Thai, my friend EU was doing the translating for me, and I was putting my hand up and everyone was going yes, and I was giving my 2 cents worth as to what I felt needed to change with the children and the teachers as well. And these are all going to be implemented. So that was quite memorable to be a part of that. They have 59 children at that school. 51 of them live on the premises, and many of them have been abandoned by their families because their families don't have the money to look after them. So the teachers at the school asked me, when are you able to come back and treat the children and teach the teachers? I would love to come back in November and do that work. I can live on site, and the thing is, we need the funding to do that work. In Laos, I was able to take medical first aid supplies, a big suitcase of medical and first aid supplies, to a little medical village in the rurals. They don't have anything there. They don't get funding from the government to have supplies, so all that they use comes from donations. They do operations there, and it's sort of like a non-life-threatening operations that get done there. The nearest hospital is 2 hours away over muddy, awful roads, and many people lose their lives because they just don't have access to the medical supplies and help that they need. There's such a lot of work that needs to be done. I'm still gathering supplies, first aid supplies and medical supplies and supplements to be able to take back to there, so I'll continue gathering those for my next trip.
So Lenny, what are your plans for the foundation in the coming months?
That is a massively long list and getting bigger all the time. There's more children to work with in orphanages and schools. There's a lot of alliances that I set up when I was overseas this time, and the idea is to take other therapists back with me to train the local therapists and to treat the children. There's money that needs to come in for this work. I can't do it on my own. There is only one of me, and I need to duplicate myself. So taking other therapists with me and training them to do this work will be of massive benefit, both to the children and to those organisations that work with children.
So what help does the foundation specifically need?
Specifically, we need funding. That is first and foremost. Monetary funding we need first and foremost to come in. It costs a huge amount of money to take therapists over there, and the accommodation food and travel expenses, that all needs to be taken care of. The training of the local therapists, and also paying the local therapists a yearly wage to start with, so that they can continue doing this work with children. They then can train the children in the healing modality, so that the children also have the opportunity of gaining useful employment later on. So it's an ongoing thing. We also need to find other therapists here in Australia that we can train, that resonate with the work that we're doing overseas. Also local therapists in the countries that we're working in. We also need to organise organisations, schools and orphanages that we can create alliances with that work with children. We also need medical and first aid supplies, reading glasses, prescription glasses, supplements, natural remedies that we can take over, and educational supplies for the children. Each and everything that we gather together and take with us, all the funds that come in, we are grateful for every little bit that comes to us. The children are very grateful, the teachers are grateful. When I was in Laos and I supplied the medical staff with their first aid supplies, they said, "We love you." That was the only thing that they could speak in English. And they were incredibly grateful. The children benefit immensely from this work and from being provided all of this information.
So Lenny, how can people contact you?
They can contact us and donate through our website, www.oasisnaturalhealthfoundation.org. We are on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter and Google+, and through our phone number as well, 0438 545 045. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for being a part of our journey, and thank you for everything that you provide for us.